Hollywood froze when Meryl Streep, a cinematic legend whose roles have defined the art of acting for decades, was nearly ejected from a charity gala in the heart of New York after a shocking confrontation no one saw coming. What was meant to be a triumphant evening supporting a foundation for underprivileged children's education turned into chaos, exposing a side of the event's organizers rarely seen so openly by their refined audience. In a stunning display of arrogance, security guard Trevor repeatedly pushed Meryl to the brink until the situation ignited like gunpowder, all because of her loyal dog, Louis. Insiders from the evening are now recounting the tense atmosphere at the entrance and a power play that nearly derailed the event. If you thought you knew how charity galas worked, think again. Stay tuned for updates and share your thoughts on X under Meryl Streep vs. Gala, as this story unveils what lies behind the facade of one of 2025's most prestigious events. And now, to the video. By her side, at her feet, sat her faithful Cocker Spaniel, Louis, his golden fur gleaming in the soft lamplight, his big brown eyes gazing at his owner with absolute trust. Louis was more than just a dog. He was her companion, her solace, in moments when the pressure of fame became unbearable. And tonight, he was to accompany her to the charity gala benefiting the foundation supporting education for underprivileged children. Meryl knew her presence would draw attention to a cause she had championed for years, but this evening held something entirely unexpected. She clipped the leash to Louis' collar, stroked his warm fur, and set off for the luxurious hotel in central New York, where the buzz of guests and the twinkling lights of the ballroom already filled the air. Meryl stepped out of the taxi in front of the hotel, holding Louis on a short leash. Marble steps adorned with a red carpet led to grand doors, beyond which live music and the hum of voices echoed. She approached the entrance confidently, where a security guard, a young man in a sharp suit with a badge reading Trevor, stood. His gaze immediately locked onto Louis, and Meryl sensed the atmosphere shift. "Sorry, ma'am, no dogs allowed," Trevor said, his voice sharp, almost hostile, his eyes narrowing as he looked at Louis. Meryl, accustomed to being recognized and welcomed, felt her cheeks flush with surprise. "I'm Meryl Streep," she said, quietly but firmly. "I'm invited to this event. My dog is very calm. He won't be a disturbance." Trevor grimaced, as if her name meant nothing to him. "I don't care who you are. Dogs are dirty and cause allergies. No animals in the hall," he snapped, crossing his arms. Meryl felt anger rising in her chest, mixed with embarrassment. She hadn't expected such rudeness, especially at an event where her name was central to the invitations. "This is a charity gala, and I'm here to support an important cause. You can't just refuse me entry," she said, her voice trembling with restrained irritation. "Rules are rules," Trevor replied, his tone growing colder. "Leave the dog in the car or leave." Louis whimpered softly, as if sensing the tension, and Meryl felt her heart clench. "Are you serious?" she asked, her eyes flashing. "Do you know how much I've done for this foundation? And you're standing here telling me to leave my friend in the car?" Trevor merely shrugged. "Don't like it? Complain to the organizers. But I'm sick of dogs, and I'm not letting any through." His words hit like a slap, and Meryl felt her anger turn to humiliation. Guests passing by began to whisper, recognizing her. "That's Meryl Streep," a quiet voice said, but no one intervened. She felt the weight of strangers' eyes, as if she were not a star but an ordinary person who had broken the rules. Meryl stepped back a few paces from the entrance, her hands trembling as she stroked Louis, who pressed against her leg. She pulled out her phone, driven by a mix of anger and hurt, to take an unusual step. Opening her social media account, a platform she rarely used but knew would amplify her voice, she typed quickly, "I, Meryl Streep, was just denied entry to a charity gala I've supported for years because I brought my dog, Louis. This isn't just about rules, it's about respect. I'm standing here, humiliated, and I want you to know what it's like to be rejected for staying true to yourself." She hit post, her heart pounding. The post immediately began racking up likes and comments, but she didn't read them. She wasn't ready. She looked at Louis, sitting quietly by her side, and felt tears welling up. She wasn't prepared for such public humiliation, but something in her, the same tenacity that earned her 3 Oscars, refused to let her walk away. Suddenly, she noticed Trevor being pulled aside by an older man in a suit, likely a manager, and a young woman with an organizer's badge approached her. Her name was Emily, and she looked flustered but kind. "Ms. Streep, I'm so sorry about this situation," she said, offering a nervous smile. "But unfortunately, dogs aren't allowed." Meryl, still holding herself together, raised an eyebrow. "What?" she asked, her voice calm but edged with steel. Emily suddenly laughed, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "I mean, not allowed until I pet your dog." She bent down to Louis, who wagged his tail happily and stroked his soft fur. "He's adorable." "All right, Mrs. Streep, come in. I'll take responsibility." Meryl felt the tension in her chest ease slightly. She looked at Emily, who smiled genuinely, and felt a first hint of relief that evening. She nodded, holding Louis's leash, and stepped into the hall, where the hum of guests filled the air. But her mind still swirled with what had happened and the post now spreading online. She knew this evening would change something, perhaps not just for her, but for those who would hear her story. Louis walked beside her, his paws softly tapping the marble floor, and Meryl felt that, despite everything, she had taken a small but significant step by staying true to herself. Emily paused at the steps leading to the stage and turned to Meryl. "Are you ready, Ms. Streep? Your entrance is in 2 minutes. We're so glad you're here, and I'm really sorry about what happened at the entrance," she said, her cheeks slightly flushed. Meryl nodded. "Thank you, Emily, and thank you for letting Louis and me in," she replied, glancing at the dog sitting attentively by her feet, watching the bustling guests. Emily smiled. "He's a true gentleman. I'll escort you to the stage." Meryl took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs, and adjusted her dress. She knew her speech had to be more than a formality. The world outside this opulent hall was full of injustice, division, and misunderstanding, and what happened at the entrance was just a small reflection of it. She lifted Louis into her arms, his warm fur calming her, and ascended the stage, ignoring the whispers of guests who noticed the dog. The room fell silent, hundreds of eyes turning to her. Her heart raced, but her voice was steady and clear when she spoke. "Good evening," Meryl began, her voice filling the hall, echoing off the walls. "I'm here to support a foundation that gives underprivileged children a chance at education, a chance at a dream. This is a cause I believe in with all my heart, because I was once a girl with a dream, fighting for her place in the world. But tonight, I want to talk about more than that. I want to talk about what happened to me half an hour ago when I was denied entry to this event because of my dog, Louis." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. The room grew still, broken only by the faint rustle of dresses and a muffled cough. Meryl stroked Louis, who sat quietly in her arms, and continued. "I stood at the entrance, humiliated, because I was told my friend, my support, my family was a problem. I was told to leave him in the car as if he were a thing, not a living being who gives me strength every day. And I asked myself, why are we so afraid to make an exception? Why are we so afraid of respecting those who stand by us, even if they don't fit our rules?" Her voice trembled, not from weakness but from passion. She saw guests exchanging glances, some nodding, others looking away. "Tonight, we're talking about children who don't fit into the system, who lack the resources to be heard. But isn't this how we treat anyone who doesn't match our idea of correctness? I see a world increasingly divided by views, by status, by who we love, or who walks beside us. And I ask you, isn't it time we learn to listen to each other, even when it's uncomfortable? Isn't it time to take a small step toward understanding?" Meryl felt tears prick her eyes but held them back. She looked at Louis, who licked her hand and smiled. "This little guy taught me that love and loyalty don't need rules, and I hope we can all learn that, not just for the children we're helping, but for the world we want to leave behind." The room erupted in applause, hesitant at first, then loud, almost deafening. Meryl felt the tension in her chest subside, but she knew her words were irrevocable. Her social media post, written in a moment of anger, now took on new meaning. It wasn't just a complaint but a call for change. She stepped off the stage, holding Louis, and noticed Emily approaching, her eyes shining with admiration. "That was incredible, Miss Streep," she said. "I think you changed this evening." Meryl smiled, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She knew tomorrow's tabloids would dissect her words, some calling her speech bold, others self-absorbed. But she also knew her small step, refusing to leave Louis and speaking her truth, had sparked something bigger. She left the hall, feeling the cool air on her skin, and looked at Louis, who wagged his tail happily. "We did it, didn't we?" she whispered. A taxi waited at the entrance, and as she got in, the driver, an older man with gray hair, turned to her. "I saw your post, Ms. Streep. You said what a lot of people are afraid to say." Meryl nodded, her heart warmed by his words. She didn't know where this night would lead, but she felt that even this small moment of truth was the start of something new, not just for her, but perhaps for those who heard her voice. Meryl Streep sat in the taxi, slowly weaving through evening Manhattan, holding Louis on her lap. His warm fur and soft breathing calmed her, but her thoughts buzzed like a hive. The city lights flickered outside, blending with her reflection in the window, tired but filled with quiet resolve. Her speech still echoed in her mind, words about respect, understanding, and the need for small steps toward change felt right. But she knew they'd have consequences. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications. The post she'd written in anger and her speech, likely recorded and posted online by a guest, had set the internet ablaze. She hesitated to open the app, fearing tabloid headlines or biting comments, yet felt her voice might have reached someone who needed it. The taxi stopped at her home, and the driver, the same older man with kind eyes, turned to her. "You gave people something to think about tonight, Ms. Streep," he said softly. "My daughter works at a school for the kids you talked about. She'd say thank you." Meryl smiled. Her heart warmed and replied, "Tell her I'm the one thanking her." She stepped out, holding Louis, and headed to her home, the cool air wrapping around her like a promise of a new beginning. In her apartment, Meryl kicked off her shoes and sank onto the soft couch, Louis curling up beside her. She finally opened her phone and saw her post had thousands of shares. Comments varied. Some praised her courage, calling her speech inspiring and necessary, while others accused her of ego, claiming she used the situation for attention. But amid it all, she noticed a message from a young teacher. "Your speech inspired me to keep fighting for my students who feel invisible. Thank you for reminding us every voice matters." Meryl felt tears well up again, but these were different, not from shame or anger, but from knowing her words had hit their mark. She stroked Louis, who whimpered softly, and thought about how one small moment, her refusal to leave him at the entrance, led to this. Yet she knew the incident with the foundation wasn't over. The organizers had emailed her an apology, promising to review their pet policy, but Meryl felt that wasn't enough. She didn't want apologies. She wanted change, not just for herself, but for everyone who'd ever felt excluded for who they are or who they love.